Hi everybody, this is my introduction to Module 2. Module 2 opened on Friday and you have your launch post due on, that's my phone, which I'm not going to answer. But anyway, the focus of this module, Module 2, is on interactive communication, and really it's this bigger area of communication called pragmatics. And you read a lot about what pragmatics is. But one way to talk about pragmatics is really just to kind of focus in on discourse, this idea of sort of structured ways that we communicate, the larger agendas. And so conversation is one of those key discourses that students use in social communication and in academic communication. And there is a structure to it. We know about things like greetings and closings and how many turns you take with another person. Those are all part of conversational discourse. And so, because we think it's really important, and because we see this is an area that students who are deaf or hard of hearing have some difficulty with, we often look at this area, assess this area, and identify communication goals for students. And so in this module, you will learn about language discourse, particularly conversational discourse. You will do some reading about an assessment, informal assessment. So this is not a sit down, I'm going to give you a test kind of assessment, but observational. And many tools and checklists that can help us identify goals around conversational discourse that you might set for students. And then we're going to apply one tool that you have a copy of in your starting with assessment materials. It's called the Conversational Proficiency Levels, or for short we call them P levels. And you will, in your summarized part, in your discussion with your group, you will look at it's a video of one student who is having a conversation, and see what you can how you can see the content, form, and function that student knows how to use, and what are some of the areas of difficulty you might see in his conversation. So in your groups, you will look at one example, and then the second week you will use the conversational P levels to assess one of your students, one of the students with whom you are working. So let me get into the course so I can show you actually what you will be doing. Okay, here's the course, content, and Module 2. So you have the launch, which is due on Monday. I'm sure you've already looked at that. It does have to do with those conversational demands, thinking about that. The Explore, you have my notes. You have some readings from starting with assessment. And then specifically, there are some tools that we'll look at. The checklist and it's for different grade levels because discourse is developmental. The other thing about conversational discourse is that it includes all the aspects of language that you talked about in Module 1. So syntax, semantics, morphology, and pragmatics, all of those are part of, or things that you look at in conversational discourse. So these are various checklists. The Minnesota is used a lot by itinerant teachers. The two checklists here are checklists. I think I'll send you the website where I found these two. It's actually from a not a textbook, but a book of assessments that I think you would find very helpful. But these sort of give you a range then of age level where you can look at conversational discourse. And so the one that we're going to focus on is what the PowerPoint is on, and those are the P levels. The PowerPoint really gives you a nice explanation of the parts of that assessment. For your summarize, again, as I said, you will be looking at one video of Tuli, one conversation, so it's a very small sample to look at. By Friday, you will have looked at the video, hopefully many times, because it's, again, it's something that you don't just get. You have to look a number of times for the kinds of things that a student might use in their communication. For your Friday post, you have a video observation form that asks you to identify content, form, and function of this particular child's communication within this conversation. And that is to be shared, uploaded to the discussion board, shared with your group so that you can, the next step is then for you to come to some agreement about what P-level proficiency Tuli currently is functioning at. And instructions for how to do that are in your readings, but page 33 of the spiral is where you'll find specific ways to identify P-level, whether it's a P-level 3, a 3 plus, a 3 minus. There are 7 levels. And so the outcome, or the final part of your discussion, is that you agree on what is his P-level, using the evidence you have from your observations. And there is a form. Here is the video observation summary form. So this form actually asks you, what P-level do you think Tuli is currently functioning at? What evidence do you have in each of the 5 areas? The conversational proficiency areas have 5 areas. 3 you know, content, form, function. The 4th is reference, and the 5th is cohesion. And you'll learn about what those are as you do in your readings. But what is the evidence you have? One piece, you don't need bunches, of evidence that tells you that he is at the P-level you're assigning him at. And then the third question is, what would be a couple of goals that you might set, communication goals that you might set for Tuli, based on what his P-level is, current P-level is, and what you want him to move to learn in the next P-level. Often it is you look at where he's functioning, and then you look at the next level to identify goals. And so that is your discussion and the summarize activity. The second week is when you use observations, not sit-down assessment, but you use observations and information from an informant. That can be your cooperating teacher, it can be a classroom teacher, it could be a parent. There are a number of people who have good knowledge of a child's communication that can help you assign the proficiency level for the student. And you'll observe that this gives you really very specific instructions on how to do this. So directly observe in at least 2 settings. Classroom is not enough. Maybe it's in the resource room. Maybe it's in on the playground. But you need at least 2 settings of observations. Keep observation notes, because you will hand those in. Talk with an informant. Get as much information as you can about the student's communication. And then use the P-level assessment form. I have here's a model P-level assessment, or module 2 P-level assessment. That'll go on the Dropbox. Here is the worksheet, though, that you will complete. So this tells you everything you need. Attach your observation notes, the completed P-level form. So if you say your student is on a 3+, you're going to have P-level 4 and P-level 5 completed, the worksheets which are in your books. And then I want evidence, just like you did with Tuli, of why you think that student is at that P-level. So what does the student demonstrate to you about their use of form, content, function, reference, and cohesion in their communication. Where did you see it? And then identify 2 communication goals based on the P levels, the proficiency levels. And I give you an example. As you notice, there are 5 areas, and you only need 2 goals, one each in each of 2 areas. So here's an example. In the area of function or use, you might write a goal for this student. The student will ask who and what questions to find out information about things and people in informal and instructional conversations 5 times a day. Now, you're all at different levels in terms of being able to write goals and measurable goals, clear measurable goals. And we'll work on that a lot. Some of you have lots of experience. But the goal comes straight from something in the P levels that you think is important that you want the student to learn how to do. And so then the last question is to ask 2 questions, pose 2 questions that you still have about using the P levels with your students. The proficiency levels are used at WSD, Wisconsin State School for the Deaf. They actually monitor their students from the time they enter WSD until the time they leave on the proficiency levels. They do an annual assessment, observation. And then a lot of teachers use it as well as itinerant teachers because their students are so included in the regular classroom that we see a lot of need for helping support students' development of conversational skills, both in social contexts and in academic contexts. So I hope this helps you with Module 2. My notes give you a little bit more information about the content, and hopefully they will guide you. And then use the worksheets because those actually can help you guide you through the activities of Module 2 as well. All right, I'm sure that I will hear from you. Have a good Module 2.